One. Hello and welcome to the Island Podcast. And we're discussing Semifinal 1, our first semifinal, where we have the Energy Standard at the London Roar taking on Tokyo Frog Kings and the New York Breakers. And my name is Ivan Grigorisian, your typical host today. And my guests today are Steven Tigg from the London Roar, Tom Rushton from Energy Standard, Martin Truijens from the New York Breakers, and David Salo from the Tokyo Frog Kings. Guys, hello, welcome, and thank you so much for making it to this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to start things off, sort of the traditional question, what did this match imply for you guys, for each of the teams? But I believe it's kind of unfair. At first I was like, not the time to play around. There's no strategizing anymore. You have to bring your A game. But it seems like, Tom, for Energy Standard, you guys were still playing around a little bit with the lineup, right? Could you maybe start and tell us what was the game plan coming into this match?
Yeah, well, like all of the matches, we were trying to, it's right from the start, right from day one of ISL, we were always trying to figure out and play with what was going to be our best lineup for the final, hoping and assuming that we're going to make it. So even coming into the semifinal, we felt we felt good about moving forward to the final. And so although we had mostly made decisions around how that lineup was going to look in the final, there were still a couple of I wouldn't say gaps or holes, but just maybes and what ifs. And as we've talked about in some of these other podcasts, there's once you make one change, there's a whole trickle down in how the lineup is going to be affected. And so in this semifinal specifically, we really just had a couple of questions that we wanted to get answers on. What if we put this person here? What if we put that person there? And as you'll see, some of them we were happy with and we went forward with, and some of them we actually did change into the final.
Thank you, Tom. And it seems like you guys grew a little bit more confident once day two rolled around and playing with the lineups. Day one seemed a little bit more like you were max serious, and day two it seemed like you guys were just a little bit more playful, throwing Andrei Zhilkin in the one breast, for example. Would that be true?
We also so there's two things. First, we knew that we were going to need to build up some good points, because we knew how strong Tokyo was going to be coming on. But also we wanted to, as much as possible, we wanted to give our athletes the opportunity to get some rest in towards the final. And so on the second day, once we kind of had the lay of the land, if it was possible to give anyone, a key player, just a little bit of a break on an event, we tried to do that. So,
thank you, Tom. Steven, how was it for you guys? I mean, you guys were the probably second biggest favorite coming into the semifinal. You guys were the guys that made it eventually to the final. What was the game plan coming in, and were you guys confident that you were making it to the final?
I think firstly, we didn't want to underestimate any of the other teams, and particularly Tokyo. And the way we saw it was that it was probably a shootout between ourselves and Tokyo, because we couldn't see Energy Standard falling outside the top two. We still, similar to Tom and Energy Standard, had a few questions and a few gaps. We knew that we could take the level of performance from the majority of the group to a different level at the semi-final. It was the first time a lot of them were going to shave down. We started a rest phase off the back of our final prelim match. And we were really excited about it. And it was the first time we really felt it was time to go. And the guys expected some faster performances. So yes, we were confident, but we were very cautious about Tokyo in particular, and some of the threats that were firing in from the New York Breakers that could take points off us. So we were confident. We were using the semi-final as preparation for the final, but we didn't want to count our chickens.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you, Steven. And David, what about you? I mean, you guys, obviously, maybe it didn't go quite as planned. You guys didn't make it to the final, but everyone on Tokyo Frog Kings bring the A game. And there was a lot of upsets happening this match that we'll later get into. But what was the game plan of the Frog Kings coming into this match?
Well, we were battling with a couple different things, but one of the things that we were kind of in the back of our mind is we weren't quite sure we were going to be able to stay and compete in the finals because Japan Federation wanted to get the team back for competition. So we had that in the background, but going into semifinals, we really were hoping for this particular matchup with Energy Standard in the semifinal, because all through the matches going into the semifinal, we knew Energy Standard seemed to have a lock on almost every single event. And the events that they didn't have a lock on, we thought we had. So we thought we had a good chance of outscoring London as long as Energy Standard did their job and winning every event they could win. We could win the other events that we won. So London came in A game all the way, and once we saw that they were in command of what they were doing and outscoring Energy Standard in some events that we thought Energy should win, we figured out that we're going to do the best we could, but we didn't think that late in that first day of the match, we kind of saw that London was strongly going to be competing with Energy Standard for that final shot. But we gave it a good run. We had some good races, and I didn't quite play out exactly the way we wanted it to, but it certainly inspired Frog Kings going into season 3.
For sure. And David, if we fantasize just for a second, and let's say Tokyo Frog Kings make it to the final, what do you guys do? 80% of your team is leaving for Japan, Japanese nationals.
Well, I think we might have had some. Kosuke was talking with the federation almost daily for the last couple of weeks leading into that semifinal match. So they were getting things worked with the federation. I think we would have been able to stay, but unfortunately, we didn't get to play that out. So we're ready. We'll be ready in season 3.
Fair enough. Thank you. And yeah, we expect a step in the higher direction from the Tokyo Frog Kings, because you guys were a rookie team and you showed up game for sure. And Martin, a couple of words about the New York Breakers. How was it for you? I mean, no disrespect, but probably coming into the semifinals, you guys knew that it's going to be tough making it to the final. What was the game plan, and was it kind of the strategy to go out with a bang, or was there sort of a master plan in mind which you could follow and potentially get to the final?
No, I think you put it correctly. Making the semifinal by itself was already, I think, a good step forward for New York Breakers compared to season 1. So that was a good achievement. We knew we didn't have a realistic chance of making the final, but I think within the team we wanted to avoid the atmosphere of like we're done. And it's very easy when you kind of count your blessings and okay, we made it this far and nothing else is possible. So what I specifically tried to do, a lot of people developed from each match. They got better and better to kind of focus on that, try to be even better. It's a really nice scenery to shine and to put yourself out there. So wherever I could, I made choices to stimulate individual performances in terms of if we had potential to win an event, we would definitely try to save energy on those persons. And I compared it a little bit to match 1. Match 1, we were with Energy Standard, Kelly Condors and LA Current, kind of similar in terms of strength to this semifinal, I think. And I think there we had one race we won, which was Marco's 200 breaststroke. So back in the back of my head was I definitely want to top that. And I think now we had 4 wins or 5 wins or whatever. So I think in that sense we succeeded, and we had quite a few people still moving forward. And that was the whole goal. I mean, and if that in the end would have resulted in making the final, that would have been amazing. But yeah, like I said, we knew that was going to be nearly impossible, if not impossible.
It's interesting that you guys were going for the wins, going for the individual victories where you could. And it definitely showed. I mean, hearing this from you now, some of the decisions you guys made make more sense to me. But let's dive into it. And let's get to our first event. And our first event is the male 200 backstroke. And straight away, what I wanted to ask is, Tom, Yevgeny Rylov and Klement Kolesnikov swimming for Energy Standard, kind of your Russian representation. Two great performances, 149.22, 149.06. Obviously, they got outtouched by Mr. Irie, who is an absolute prodigy. But tell me a little bit about the preparation of Klement, because I know, speaking with his coach, Dmitry Lazarev, that sort of the goal of preparation was to get Klement in top shape when sort of semifinal and final roll around. Did you guys see that sort of massive improvement happening during the semifinal one, or was it sort of gradually improving from the qualification stage?
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Klement and his coach, because Clem really turned it up as the matches went on. The first match, he was obviously not at his best, but then each subsequent competition he would get better and better. And so by the time he got to the semifinal, he was moving really, really well. And I wasn't necessarily a surprise to see him swim the 149.06 in the 200, based on how he'd been improving in all of the matches. But it was really good to see him do that. He actually, when we were getting ready for this match, as I said earlier, we were trying to strategically rest some individuals, and there was some discussion about whether or not we needed him to do the 200 backstroke in this match. But the issue was, if he didn't do it, who was going to do it? We've got a number of other men that could do the 200 backstroke, but again, it would impact other events. So, for instance, in the past, we put Craig Zerk in there, but he was, being used in other events, and it felt like we needed, we couldn't start off the session with a soft field, so we needed to make sure that we came in really strong right off the bat after the 100 butterfly. And it turned out to be really good that he did do that, because I think it built his confidence as well. And he was able to still turn around off the tuner back and still continue to swim really well in the rest of the session. So.
For sure. And it seems like Klement is one of these people who really feed off of their good performances. Whenever he swims well, he tends to keep the ball rolling for the rest of the session. I think it was a great decision by you guys to throw him in the two back. It really did seem like he was moving well, and that got him fired up for the rest of the session. Then we saw the 45-second performances and the 100 free splits from him and so on. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah. He I think I agree with you. The more he feels, like, the more confident he feels, the better it is. And also we knew that this was going to be a tight field. Obviously, we've got Ryoseki in there, and then the two London boys were fantastic. They really showed up. So I think it was about 0.5 seconds from first to fifth. We knew that going in, that those boys would have to really fire on that. So, like I said, we wanted to make sure that we weren't throwing a soft field into what we knew was going to be a highly competitive event.
Sure, thank you, Tom. And yeah, the density of this event was insane. It used to be like, once you swim a 149.0, like Iria did, it was kind of a guarantee of quite a big jackpot. And now Iria only got to jackpot one swimmer. It just shows you that the level of competition raises once we get to the playoff tremendously. And talking about Ryasuki, Dave, how was this? I mean, both of these performances, also for Marcus Thormeyer, 150.27 is an amazing result. Way to go for the Tokyo Frog Kings to start off the session. And also for Iria. I mean, Iria seems like the guy, and Dave, no disrespect, and especially to Iria, but he's kind of the, how would I say it, the Laszlo Čech of his respective era. Whereas he's a man of tremendous talent. He's always up there and he's always game, but he tends to get second, third all the time. That first position tends to slip away from his hands. How important was him to get that victory here with a 149.02?
Well, I think you're right. Rio is an old soul. He's been at this game for a long time. He keeps going after it. He's very, very consistent. And coming up a little bit short, but some great performances over his career. But here we had Rio, and then we had, on the other end of the spectrum, we had a very young Marcus Thormeyer who's just coming up and doing really well every match that we had. This played kind of into our whole strategy of this match, is that we were coming off 3 events. We just come off the women's 200 backstroke. We were second and third. Energy Standard won 3 events right in a row, so that was playing into our plan that if Energy Standard could win all the events other than the events that we could win, we would have a good shot getting into the final match. So when Rio out-touched Clement, who's a phenomenal talent, young talent, it gave us a lot of enthusiasm. And if you heard us, we were pretty loud at that point, because I think we were in second place at that point in time. So Rio is a great, consistent performer throughout. And it was going to come down to that last 5 meters. And he's so solid and so efficient in his stroke that despite the lack of much size or muscularity, he's just a comer. So yeah, it was really, really important for us to get that win, and it really helped us stay on strategy more than anything else, I think.
Thank you, David. Yeah,
and I could add also on that, Marcus Thormeyer, actually, when I first started coaching in Canada, I ran a very small club team, and Marcus actually was part of that team when he was 12 years old. So it was kind of cool for me to see Marcus up on the Tokyo Frog Kings team and doing real well. And that was he actually set the Canadian record with that swim, 150.2. So, kudos to him for showing up and doing his best on the most important swim.
Oh wow, Tom! It must have been a very special race for you, right? Seeing Marcus break the Canadian record once you've known him from 12. But I know, how long have you known Marie-Sophie Harvey for?
When Marcus joined the club team I was coaching, that was about 6 years before I met Mary. So I've known Marcus for a lot longer than I know Mary. Yeah.
Did he ever come for some advice to you during this ISL bubble?
We talked quite a bit. When Marcus was part of the club I was working with, he was coached by at that time my assistant coach, who is now also still coaching him at the High Performance Center in Vancouver, Canada, which is also another good story. They've been coach and athlete together in various degrees for, I think, about 10 years, which is quite exceptional for North America. It's a bit uncommon. But yeah, I talked to Marcus quite a bit. Like I said, it's great to see him there, and great to see him thriving in such a great environment.
Thank you, Tom. And Steven, I mean, Christian Diner and Luke Greenback, 149.53 and 149.31. 2 amazing performances, yet the guys only received 5 and 4 points. Were you guys at all disappointed from sort of such a great result, yet not the greatest benefit in points from it?
I think when you look at the quality of the swimmers in the field, could we really have expected much more? I don't really think so. Given what the guys that beat them had been on paper, and what both Christian and I think Luke did a best time in that semi-final. He went on to go quicker, and Christian set a best time in match 1 for us, and I think he then went quicker again in that semi-final. He was very consistent throughout the course of the campaign. So no, I think it was solid. It was 9 points for us, and we knew what we were up against, and to get that middle sort of ground, we didn't lose too much anywhere, and it was one of those great ones, the 200 backstroke, because there's a lot of the events are conversations around, if we do this, that'll happen. If we do that, that could happen. And with this one, it was always it's Luke and Christian. We had no other option in that event other than sometimes with Luke, it would be the only race he would do over the course of the 2 sessions. So we did have conversations about, do we leave him out? And it means we can bring somebody else in because he wasn't really only, and we had to leave others out. But we stuck with him because of the quality that we felt he could bring, and we actually ended up starting to swim him in the 100 and the relay as well. So we were pretty happy with that, and it was cemented what we were expecting. The guys who had already done best times did it again when we were trying to lift the team. So it kept sending that message to the rest of the athletes within London we're on form, and this is what we're expecting.
Okay, thank you, Steven. So everything going according to plan for the London Roar so far?
Yeah.
Okay. And with that being said, let's move to the next event, and it is the male 200 breaststroke. And to start things off, Martin, James Wilby and Marco Koch swimming for the New York Breakers here. James swam at 2:07:32, Marco swam at 2:01:31. And you started off our discussion today with mentioning that in the first match, Marco was your only win in that 200 breaststroke. Were you guys frustrated at all after this performance? And I know Marco was going through some health issues towards the end of the camp. Could you open up on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that definitely played a part in well, let's put first, everything he did was, I think, somewhere between 2005 and 201 something.
2:19, I think was his.
Yeah, so not bad at all, and this was in the ballpark, so it wasn't like a lousy performance or anything. But yeah, I think he and the team were a little bit disappointed, obviously, that he could not continue his winning streak. He won all the 200s he did. But true, after the last playoff match, he had some groin issues. He had that before, and we kind of were able to, yeah, to with the help of the physios to make it work. But this time it was a little bit more serious. So if it was already perfect when he was swimming that semifinal, I don't think honestly that it was 100%. So that might have played a part. And if you look at the race, I think the thing where he lost connection a little bit was the second 50. All the others were quite okay. I think the second 100 was the fastest of the field, and he was actually approaching the winner in the end quite well in that last 50. But yeah, then you turn and touch second. That happens. No blame to him. Let's put it that way.
Okay, Martin. In my previous discussions with the athletes, I received some very interesting information regarding Marco Koch. Apparently, he's a superhuman in the gym. He has like a 160 kilogram bench press, which is an insane number. It's comparable to Flo Manadou and Ben Proud almost. Then the question lies, why do you think he doesn't have the sprinting ability? It seems like he has the power.
It's a good question. I think we need to take some muscle biopsies to really get that answer. No, yeah, I think he has always been a 200 breaststroker with a decent 100, and his 50 was a little bit off. Actually, in this ISL season, I think he put his personal best in the 50 breaststroke. So miracles are still possible, but definitely, he's not a born sprinter. So I assume that if we actually do take that muscle biopsy, that we can find the reasons. Not a lot of fast twitch fibers, probably. So benching 160 kilo, yeah, very nice. I think that's trainable, but it's nothing compared to the real bodybuilders, right?
But for a swimmer, that's an insane result. Let's be honest.
Yeah, the question is, do you need it to swim 2 minutes during the breaststroke?
True.
Questionable, but maybe it will help for a 50 breast.
Who knows? Who knows?
This was. I'm speaking with Ilya Shimanovic words a little bit here. He told me about Marco a little bit, but there you go. And
well, I think honestly, to add to this, Marco's real quality is not his bench press quality. I mean, his swimming technique, his pullouts in particular are insane. It's really high quality. That's, I think, where his performance level comes from, not the bench press.
Well, for sure, he's one of the most efficient breaststrokers out there. He makes like 2 strokes in the first 25, I think.
Yep,
it's insanity. Thank you, Martin and Steven. I mean, for you guys, that was such a huge race. First of all, Adam Peaty, 2:03:06. That's a great performance from Adam. But
yeah, I think that's the best time.
But Kirill Prigoda stole the show, 2:01:20, defeating Marco Koch. That must have been huge, and especially for Kirill, because I mean, Marco is a big name, And above this, Kirill was kind of, I mean, it's hard to shine when you have Adam Peaty on your team doing breaststroke. But this was Kirill's moment to shine, right? That was huge.
Yeah, I think Kirill had been very quietly watching Marco get closer and closer to his world record, and was getting more and more nervous and more, I guess, just up for this. He did shave down for the semi-final, and he's a real interesting swimmer as well, very technical, and he's incredibly efficient. He also has excellent pullouts and is possibly the only other person in the world, I think, that can compete with Marco or anywhere near him short course when it comes to that.
Chupkov?
And he was, yeah, well, yeah, I think Chupkov's been 201 as well. But no, he was desperate to get one for the team, and I do genuinely think that win was the catalyst for us in that semi-final. Once that one clicked, they just seemed to start rolling. And yeah, with Adam going 2:03.0, at that point we thought, yeah, the world record's probably in danger on both the 50 and the 100 if he's in that sort of shape. So yeah, that really got the momentum and the ball rolling for our team, and we were really conscious, both myself and Mel and Rob, team manager, to try and jump on that, and to make the most of it.
Thank you, Stephen. I remember me and Bruno watching this event, and we were like, "Oh no, what is Adam doing? He's committing athletic suicide. He's about to be full of lactic acid for the rest of the match." But no, he was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen. And Tom, a question to you. Max Stupin and Ilya Shimanovic in this event. 2:06.43 for Max. It's hard to ask for more from Max. He's not really a 200 breaststroker. He's much more of an IMer, and I believe he did an excellent job here. But Ilya Shimanovic is the real star here. 2:03.91. You might disagree with me, but from my perspective, that is an amazing performance from Ilya. And knowing that he specializes on the 50 and the 100 so much, how does he maintain that shape for the 200 also, you would say? Because he's quite a big guy, isn't he?
He's quite he's a very tall individual for sure. But both of those guys. So Max Stupin, I mean, that was the best time for him. And he was a little bit frustrated because he did get jackpotted. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe if he was a few tenths faster, he might have kept the points. So he was a little bit annoyed with that. And I remember talking to him after that and saying, yeah, but you did best time. Like what more can you really do? He was obviously, Max was 2 and a bit seconds behind the 6th place. So it's not like he was gonna catch that. And for Ilya as well, like you said, what a great performance. To that point in the season, that was his fastest time that he'd done. His best time at that moment was 2:03.4, which, like we just said, Adam was 2:03.0, Ilya was 5th at 2:03.9. So even if he did go that best time, he wouldn't have moved up at all. He did go faster in the final, and then in December he also went another best time. He's been 2:02 now twice, but at that moment that was an excellent swim for him. And like we've talked about, like I think some of these breaststroke lads in the 200 short course, if they can do really good pullouts, they can get away with a lot more than they could in the 200 long course. And for Ilya, I think, not that he's, Ilya's a good long course swimmer, but I don't think his 200 is anywhere near the quality long course that it is short course. And I think a lot of that is down to his pullouts.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, the pullout seems to help out the breaststrokers quite a bit, probably in the skins as well. It seems like, I mean, it's quite questionable, but judging on the time progression, it seems like people tend to get tired less out of the 4 strokes doing skins on breaststroke. Just the time tend to drop a lot slower than the rest of the strokes. And I believe this is probably A, because they can breathe, and B, because of the pullouts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure, like they're there's a lot of things that could be a consideration. And it was actually quite interesting. Obviously, nobody's ever seen breaststroke skins before this ISL season, and I think everyone noticed what you're mentioning, is that in a lot of the events, the time difference between that first round and the last round, everybody is adding time. And in a few of the breaststroke skins, we actually saw people do their fastest time on the last round, which even if you were going quite relaxed on another stroke, I think that would be basically impossible. Whereas in breaststroke, it seems like they can reliably do that. So interesting, and I think looking forward to seeing more results so we can get more information on it.
It's hard to imagine someone dropping a 22 low 50 fly as their third 50. It would be insane. Thank you, Tom. And with that, let's move to our next event, and it is the female 4x100 meters freestyle. And David, I wanted to start with you. I wanted to discuss your A team in particular. Shirai to Duluth to Sakai to Sato. First of all, it seems like, I mean, your team isn't particularly notorious for having great 100 freestylers. But stars seem to align quite a bit in this relay. You guys did amazing, and especially the performance from Natsumi Sakai, 51.94. What a result. I mean, were you guys happy with that?
Yeah, I think you pointed out one of the weaknesses that we had in our team is that we're not really strong on most of the 50s, and the 100s are not our go-to events. Our go-to events are 400 IM, 200 fly, 200 breaststroke, backstroke, those events. So for us to capture top three in the relays was always kind of part of the goal. Is let's be top three. If we could get our A relay and our B relay in the top 5 or 6, we'd probably be getting enough points to hold off or stay up there with Energy Standard in London. So this was an outstanding result. And the 51.9, like you point out from Natsumi, is exceptional swim. And I think what's really, really important with ISL that's very different from a lot of these athletes performing elsewhere is that the relays are really important. And in most circumstances, outside the Americans, kids aren't really exposed to relays much at all. So we really get to see the kind of that level of competitiveness out of the athletes. As a coach, you always want to see better performances in those relays. And what Natsumi did was exceptional. And given the fact that she doesn't have a lot of experience on relays, especially short course meters. And so it was kind of one of those points that you can point to the team and go, look, we were third behind Energy Standard in London. That's a really solid performance. Look at these splits. And those a lot of times carry us into the next event because everybody gets really excited about it. Yeah.
Thank you, David. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. This 51.9 made me believe that you guys didn't really have a hole in the 100 freestyle almost.
Yeah, we're working on that. We're working on a new group this coming fall.
Thank you, David. And Steven, for you guys, I mean, your A team was Anna Hopkin to Maria Kameneva to Marie Wattel to Freya Anderson, and this was almost pitch perfect relay for you guys. Everyone did amazing. 51.9 from Anna Hopkin to start things off, 51.9 from Kameneva, 51.7 from Wattel, and then a sub 51 performance from Freya. If not for Energy Standard, you guys were still faster than the world record set for this event, holding from a 3:26.53 set in 2014 by the Team Netherlands.
Yep.
How was this performance for you guys, and how devastating was it to get second after such an amazing swim?
Yeah, I think on this one we had a real disparity between our A and B team. And the win was really important for us. If we could jackpot our own team and they didn't get minus points for going too slow, there was a decent swing there. So yeah, I don't think we could have asked much more from the girls in terms of what they've done. And on this occasion, we were beaten by a team that was just absolutely exceptional. We couldn't. There's maybe a few tenths here and there, given Freya's split later on in the final. I think she was 50 point low. We probably still wouldn't have been as close, and I think Sarah probably would have just went quicker if we were nearer to them anyway. So yeah, it was a great performance, and it was a real good battle, and to see the quality across 8 girls in particular to swim those sort of times was really exciting.
Thank you, Steven. And what's going on with Freya Anderson? It seems like she's the type of person that shares her absolute best maybe in relays. And it's kind of hard for her to mirror that in an individual performance. Would you agree to this? And if so, why would you think this is the case?
I don't know. Maybe she's got a great takeover. I do think that she carries her mass well on a takeover compared to a conventional start. She's not a great starter. We've seen it before with some other athletes where, you know, in relays they can just do exceptional things, and Dave touched on it, that kind of that's what we want to see. But you know, I've been in positions as well where swimmers have done things in relay, and actually you think, I'd like to see a bit more of that individually, because you could be a hell of an athlete if you could. And I do think from Freya that's coming. You know, she's learning all the time. If there is a race on, she'll just swim as fast as she has to swim. You know, and that's what's really exciting. It's 50.9. If she was a bit closer, it might have been 50.4. So it's very young, but I'm really excited to see just what they're actually capable of in a relay. And then think, all right, how do we strip that back then and get that sort of mindset and appetite when you go into your individual? You know, can you take that doing it for the team into I'm doing it for myself and the team?
Thanks, Steven. And I believe there's one more person on your team that kind of had a similar issue when he was younger and then overcame it. And that person being James Guy. Would you agree to this? Because I remember young James Guy, and he was always outstanding in the relays. I mean, even bringing back to 2016, seeing James Guy do the 100 fly split in the medley relay, that was insanity. But he seemed to sort of step over that, and now James Guy is reliable both in individual and relay performances. Do you think he could be a good mentor for Freya to sort of overcome this issue, if there is an issue?
Yeah, I mean, they both train in the same group in Bath with Dave McNulty. You know, I speak to Dave a lot, and there's a lot of work going on and always goes on in the background around the athletes from a holistic point of view. So yeah, I think that James will be definitely in Freya's ear to just give. I think sometimes it's just the belief as well. You know, confidence and belief that, yeah, you can be competitive from an individual standpoint as well.
Thank you, Steven. Yeah, confidence is huge. And Tom, I mean, you guys, just to highlight this out, I believe this is the race where Energy Standard became a little bit untouchable for the rest of the teams, because 12 points going the way of London Roar cumulatively, 12 points going the way of Tokyo Frog Kings cumulatively, 0 points going the way of New York Breakers, sorry Martin, and 48 points going the way of Energy Standard. That was a huge point swing. And I mean, even your B relay, Hope to Banage to C-Bomb to Davis, did amazing. They earned their 10 points, but your A relay was absolutely outstanding. 51.35 from Shoban Jorge, 51.67 from Pernil Blume, 51.53 from Femke Hemsker, and 51.27 from Sarah Sjostrom. That would have been, if these girls were from one country, that would have beaten the previous world record by almost a second. That's how good this performance was. Could you talk me through how pumped you guys were after this?
We knew that this was we knew that it was going to be both a very strong event for us. We had a lot of confidence in the second team, and I think Lucy Hope did the best time leading off that B team, and all the girls on the B team actually swam really, really well. I think most of them were their best at that moment, their best split that they did in the ISL season. So, and we had talked to them and said, you need to make sure that you're swimming fast and you're moving yourself up and trying to get in that top four, because one of the things that we saw was if that second team can be in the top four, that's a big points gain. But we also knew that the London team was going to be very strong. We knew that we had no chance to say split our two teams and try to get move them both up, because we knew the London team was going to be exceptional, and they absolutely were. So we knew that our A team, so to speak, had to be just that, the A team, and they had to show up, and absolutely they did that. Siobhan led off from 51.35, like you said, and she had previously been 51.1, I think, in one of the earlier matches. So it was a couple of tenths off of her lifetime best time, but still an exceptional swim. And then we had actually changed the relay order for this one. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, it's the same order we did for the final. And so we had Penile go in second, and she felt like going second was a really good thing for her. She liked that energy. She liked the fact that, as many people do, she liked the fact that she was able to dive in going ahead. She was first going in, but also she had the pressure from the London team. They were in the next lane. Like, she was able to see them, and it really just kind of kept her momentum going. And that was actually her fastest ever relay split. That was a lifetime best time for her on a relay split. Fem's always great on the relays, and she actually has the world record from I think it's 2016 or so. She's on that world record relay. She's always consistent and always has been for us. And, you know, Sarah on anchor, we frequently will put Sarah on anchor because it does give her, she does do a lot of races, and it gives her the ability to back off just a touch if she needs to. And in the past, you might see that. You might see some splits for her that are 52 or something like that. But actually, to be quite honest, that was Sarah's best time. She's never been faster than that on a relay start. And I think, you know, that just goes to show we've got both Penile and Sarah, individual Olympic gold medalists going best time splits on a relay. When you add in the quality of athlete like Siobhan and Fem, you know you're going to get a special relay when that happens. So kudos to those girls. They did a great job.
Sure, thank you, Tom. And it's kind of shocking to me to hear that this is Sarah's fastest split. I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, she's not known exactly. I mean, being other than the ISL, I don't know how many relays she really does. So, and I know, I mean, for instance, her long course 100 freestyle world record was done on the relay, but she's usually leading off in that situation. I don't know how often for Sweden she would be not on the leadoff spot. So there's a little bit of a caveat there. Like, she doesn't do a lot of relays, but, you know, best time's the best time. And, you know, I think it's always good to celebrate those when you get them, for sure.
For sure. And there's also definitely a skill involved in relay transitioning, and it's something that it's not easy to nail down. I believe, David, you guys do an amazing job in the US sort of nailing it down for the collegiate system, right?
Yeah, it's obvious that's kind of our go-to in American collegiate swimming. In fact, when I got into camp with the Frog Kings, I made it very, very explicit that we need to work on relay exchanges on a daily basis, because a lot of these kids don't have much exchange work. So, yeah, and Marcus Thormeyer was one of our favorite, that he needed to work. He's a great swimmer, but he didn't have a lot of experience on relays. So we got him off the relays a lot. He was the go-to guy. But critical point of our game plan was to have relay exchanges done really well. The kids did a great job with that.
And moving into our next event, the male 50 freestyle, David, I kind of want to continue our discussion about the start, because you guys had Kosuke Matsui and Vlad Morozov representing the Tokyo Frog Kings in this event. Kosuke swam at 21:08 and Vladimir swam at 20.96. Two great performances, no disappointment whatsoever. This is as fast as these guys being in the ISL, and it was hard to ask for more. But what I wanted to ask you is, what makes Kosuke Matsui start so special? Because he's not the biggest guy in the field by far. He doesn't seem like the most powerful out of the bunch either. But the way he starts, all of a sudden, he's even faster than Vlad Morozov off the start sometimes, which is insanity, mind-boggling for me. Could you talk me through how he does it, how he manages it?
Well, I'm not sure how these guys do. I was really very impressed throughout the course of the ISL that the Japanese on starts were really exceptional. They were getting off the block really fast. If you looked at the reaction times of almost all of our athletes, they were in the 0.5 range versus 0.6 or even higher. And Kosuke, you're right. Kosuke's first 10, 15 meters is exceptional. It matches almost anybody. He's not nearly as strong as Vlad Morozov is, and Vlad's a pretty good guy off the blocks as well. But the Japanese do some really, really good technical work. If you look at all their strokes, and if you go through the matches, every match that we swam in, everybody's always really intrigued by Erie and the backstroke, and Yuli, our backstroker on the women's side, and they're just these perfect technical skills that these kids present. So they're really good at that. And Kosuke is not even the best. Shinri, one of our sprinters who didn't make, he was more on the relay only guy. He's really exceptional off the blocks as well. So they do some really good things. I think they're just, I'm not sure what they're doing. I try to enhance it where I could as their coach in the short camp. But those guys come to task really, really well. So we were really fortunate to get 2-3 in this event. And again, part of our strategy was to cheer on Energy Standard where we could. And Manager's a tough guy to beat anytime. And so again, part of our strategy was to see Energy Standard win events that we couldn't win, and then score as many points as we could beyond that. So and not get bonused out of points. So that race was really good for us.
David, thank you so much. Finally, I got a coach to say that he was cheering for another team for the benefit of his own team. I was trying to get Aqua Centurions to say that, and they wouldn't. I was trying to get DC Tridents to say that, and they wouldn't. Thank you, David. Finally. And David,
I hope London didn't feel bad about that, but we found ourselves cheering for Standard in some of those skins races. It's like, come on, London, beat by Energy.
Yeah, and that was so evident, by the way, usually at the end of the match during skins, when a team doesn't have a swimmer on board, yet they're cheering the hell out of one of the swimmers from the team because they know that they're really close in points. That was stuff made of pure gold.
I think that's what we all found was so much enjoyable about being in the part of the ISL is that there's that kind of camaraderie, and your attention sway to how it's going to impact your team, and it was a lot of fun.
I know I'm kind of capitalizing on this 50 freestyle time, but I have one more question to ask you. From our last discussion with Togo, your team manager, I received some mind-boggling information. Apparently, athletes like Tomoto Honda has never lifted weights. And people like Ryosuke Iri haven't lifted weights in decades.
Yeah.
Please tell me Kosuke Matsu is lifting weights for the 50 freestyle, because if he's not, it could revolutionize swimming. Do we even need strength and conditioning?
Well, I think a lot of us would have debates about whether or not you need a lot of weights. I'm not a big believer in tons of weights. I'm more of a velocity-based training philosophy, and so weights can be an important part of what you're doing. But I don't recall Kosuke doing a lot of weights. I know Erie doesn't do any weights at all, and you can tell by the look of his body. But I think that's where the Japanese make up for lack of maybe some strength or size issues, is that they're really, really good technically. So they're really, really efficient. So it's like I said, how much weight work do you need to do? You said that earlier. The weights, a lot of squats. Kids do a lot of squats, and really pushing off the walls and off the blocks are probably two components that can be affected by that. But they're so good ones that hit the water. And how much weight training really impacts it, I don't know. I do know that a lot of the kids on the Japanese team, I was really impressed by that. They were in the weight room almost throughout the entire camp, almost on at least 2 or 3 times sessions a week. But I don't think there wasn't a lot of heavy lifting. It was more kind of functional.
Dynamic.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, David. And moving on, Tom, Andrei Zhilkin and Flo Manady, 20.6 from Flo. Flo showed up. Flo performed like he needed to. Flo took the points. Andrei Zhilkin is kind of more interesting because he spent quite a while in quarantine. And finally, he's back here. And 21.4 from him. That's quite a good result. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but he kind of closes a hole that existed, because your second 50 freestyler, yes, you had Sergei Shevtsov, Simonas Bilis, you also tried Chad there a couple of times, but it seems like you were searching for the guy. Is Andre the guy?
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct in that. Obviously, we've got Florent in there, and he's a number 150 freestyler, and we talked about this with regards to some of the other matches, but some like last year when you knew that the skins was going to be freestyle, this second spot was it was easier to give to somebody who could only swim at 50 freestyle. This year, knowing that it's most likely not going to be freestyle, it's hard to justify giving that second spot to somebody that can only do a 50 freestyle. And for our team, we saw that on both the men and the women's side, where Pernille Bloom, she was a relay only swimmer, even though she's an Olympic gold medalist, because we just didn't have the number of spots available to have her swim only the 50 freestyle. And same on the men's side. Throughout the entire season, we were making adjustments. We had Ben Proud in the 50 free. We had Sergei Shevtsov. We had Simonas Bilis. Like you said, we even swam Chad Leclos in the skins at one point. And then in this match, we swam Andre Zilkin, who actually he did a great job, and his only goal was to not get jackpotted by Flo, so he was quite happy. But yeah, it was we were always trying to figure out what the best solution was going to be there, because we knew coming into the final, we knew Dressel was going to be exceptionally quick, and that second spot very likely could be jackpotted no matter what. So it was more important that we use somebody who's obviously going to be good, and hopefully they get a point out of it, but also somebody who had other individual swims, so we weren't taking up that roster spot, and those individual swims weren't going to be necessarily negatively affected by the lineup. I think that there's definitely you could definitely argue that a guy like maybe Clement's got a good 50 freestyle, but is it worth it to put him in there, knowing that he's got the tuner back, knowing that he has the 4x100 free relay, where he's a big player in that. Some of the other people who we did put in and also swam the 4x100, they weren't necessarily expected to go or to be as integral into the performance of the relay. So it was something that I think we tried different combinations all the way through in this, and I don't know whether there was whether we ever found the right combination, but we definitely we got a lot out of Andre on this one for sure.
Thank you, Tom. And Martin, a quick question to you. I mean, Matthew Richards and Damian Railing for you in this event. 2177 from Matthew and 2167 from Damian. Obviously, they got jackpotted, probably not the result you were looking for. But my big question is, in almost, I think all previous matches, if I'm not mistaken, you had Michael Andrews from the 50 freestyle for you, but not here. Why was this? Was it because the level of competition seemed a little bit too high and Andrew could score more points in other events, or was there another reason to it?
No, you're spot on. Michael had done the 50 freestyle several times, swimming a rough range between 21.2, I think, and 21.5 or something like that. And we knew we were not gonna get a lot of, we were not gonna get anything else out of that, most likely. And something else was necessary to win it or become second or third or whatever. So we choose to save a little bit on him because he thought he could do more in a 50 breaststroke and dip below 26 seconds, which in the end did not happen, but we at least wanted to give him that chance. So that was why, definitely, yeah.
That's one of these, you're sacrificing maybe a little bit of the points to give a chance for a W in another event.
Yeah, well, I don't think we sacrificed a lot of points here, but yes, that was the reasoning behind it.
With that, let's move to our next event, and it is the male 200 individual medley. And Steven, straight away, I've been waiting for this one. This was one of the highlights for me for semifinal one, because the London Roar was represented by Andreas Vizayas, who was always good for you in this event, 152.1. He didn't fail to swim up to his abilities. It started 152.60. But Duncan Scott, 151.66. First of all, what a draw. I mean, that was an amazing time considering the ISL bubble previously. But also just the fact that he defeated Kosuke Hagino, such a trademark in the individual medley game. I mean, that performance was huge in my perspective. Would you agree?
Yeah, it was very good, and it was a bit surprising because I think 4 days before he almost got scraped out the pool on the last 100 of the 400 medley. And to be honest, at that point, we're like, right, he needs to rest now because the final was maybe only 10 days away. So he just got sent to his room for 2 days without touching the water, just to kickstart his preparation for the final. And he also shaved down going into the semi-final. So I think Kosuke was over the other side of the pool, if I remember that race correctly. So what we'd said to both Duncan and Andreas was that really they had to make the race between themselves. And we knew that they were both good enough to win it. Andreas obviously was 1 minute 50 on his best. Duncan was 151. And we just challenged them to push each other as much as they could. And if they could do that, if they could see Kosuke over the other side, great. If not, then they just really had to use one another. So it was probably a little bit quicker than maybe expected at that point for Duncan. And I know that Andreas was a little bit disappointed because he had clipped down for the semi-final, and I think he'd been quicker already, or there or thereabouts. But yeah, again, it was one of those ones. It was just a great one to nick, similar to Kirill in the 200 breaststroke. This was another one, and we felt that the momentum was maybe starting to swing a little bit in our favour for Tokyo, and we were getting, we then kind of started to have our sights set on Energy Standard a little bit more.
Thank you, Steven. Yeah, for sure. And David, for you, I mean, Tomoro Honda and Kosuke Hagino, 155.06 from Tomoro and 152.35 from Kosuke. Was the Japanese team devastated at all after this event? Were you guys expecting for Kosuke to sweep this, or were you expecting that maybe a challenger would come in the face of Vizayas or Scott and take the W from you guys, or was it totally unexpected?
Well, I think, as just was pointed out, this is really kind of the turning point for London. They were first and third in this particular event. Our concern in the 200 IM for Kosuke always was that last 50. He comes up he breaks out a little too quickly going in the freestyle leg. He's not quite as strong. He's more of a 400 IMer, obviously. So that was always kind of the peril in his IM, the 200 IM, is that 50 freestyle. Somebody strong enough to come back on him. So he led through that into that last 50, and Duncan was exceptional coming home with a 27 flat that last 50, and Kosuke was at a 27.9, so he was outsplit quite a bit. So it wasn't devastating. It was still early in the match, but we could tell that the swing was kind of moving in London's direction. This is where Energy Standard, they were 7th and 8th, and I think they got jackpotted. They lost quite a few points on this event.
Negative 2 points total for this event.
Yeah. So that was kind of the devastation. Is if we did as well as we are, we're always looking at, well, what's London doing? What's Energy Standard doing? And Energy caught nothing in that, lost 2 points, and London obviously was first and third. So it wasn't devastation. It was like you could see London creeping into their game. And it didn't put us much on our back haunches because we still had really good events coming forward. We knew the 200 IM for the women was coming up, and the next event, and Yui was kind of odds-on favorite to win that event. So we're kind of playing that game of don't lose too much, gain where you could. But we certainly felt the swing going in London's direction at this point in time.
Thank you, David. And there will be a huge upset coming from you guys and the individual medley races later on that we'll discuss. But yeah, thank you. It did seem like the swing was going towards London Roar at this point. And Tom, a quick question to you. What happened to Max Strupen in this race?
Why was he disqualified? I honestly was trying to remember, and I cannot. I did look it up, and I did talk to him about it. I remember the conversation. I remember going and asking the officials, but at this moment, I cannot remember what it was. It wasn't what I expected it to be, which was a I expected it to be something like a one-hand touch or something like that. And I remember it was not that. But honestly, I can't remember what it was.
Thanks, Tom. Then let's move to the next event, and it is the female 50 breaststroke. And Tom, straight away, Bria Larson, 30.00, and Benedetta Pilato, 28.86. What a performance from the youngster, right?
Yeah, that was I think that was a world junior record. She went faster in the final, I believe. I think she went a few 100s faster in the final, but at the time that was a world junior record. And just an exceptional swim. I think she really Benny swam really well in the first match. And I think after that, she was a little bit up and down. And I think she really hit her stride here in this semifinal, starting off with that 28.8, really, really strong swim. And got a lot of points on the jackpot. And one of the things that, like we've talked about with regards to the 50 freestyle, one of the goals that some of the athletes come in with is not to lose their points. And Bria with the 30.00 was, she managed to keep her 5 points, and she was really excited about that. So it's kind of a double win for those two girls. Obviously Bene was fantastic, and Bria was, I think that might have been her, I don't think she was under 30 before in this season. So I think she was quite happy with the time, and also happy to keep the points. So.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And just another quick question. Would you say for Benedetta Pilato, your best event is the 100 breaststroke or the 50 breaststroke?
I think it's definitely the 50, but she did an incredible job in the last. I wouldn't say that she did an incredible job in over ISL, because she did have a very good 100 at the end of the summer in the Setacoli Invitational in Rome, long course. But certainly, I mean, we spoke, I remember in the first match of ISL, we did not put her, I think we didn't put her in the 100 breaststroke, because her best time on paper was wasn't competitive. And then I think she ended up splitting. I want to say she was quite fast in some of the relays, and like
it was like a 1 and 3.5.
Yeah, I think she had some really impressive splits, and I think she certainly kind of surprised us in that, but also she's progressed a long way in the 100. I know her and her coach work quite hard to make her more competitive in the 100, because obviously the 50 is not an Olympic event. But I think, yeah, she's definitely done a good job progressing her 100. I think she certainly likes the 50 more, for sure. Feels more comfortable with it.
Thank you, Tom. And Steven, for you guys, Annie Laser and Aliyah Atkinson, 30.5 from Annie and 29.30 from Aliyah. How was Aliyah at all disappointed after this event? Or rather, was she mad a little bit or fired up? Because the performance that would come later on from her the next day would be mind-boggling. But it seems to me like Aliyah is one of these people that it seems like if the 50 works out for her, the rest of the match kind of works out for her. And when the 50 isn't quite there, it seems like Aliyah tends to, it's like she's not there completely. Here, she suffered a defeat in the 50 where, honestly, for me, Aliyah was the favorite here.
Mm-hmm.
But then something inside her made her bounce back like never before during the second day. Did you see that after this race? Like, what was going on in her head?
We had swum her in the 100 fly because we were still playing around with that, the semi-final. So I'm not sure how much of that maybe impacted her speed a little bit on the 50, because her start and her turns are incredible. This was quite a big swing back to energy standard after we swung it the other way. And yeah, the next again day she was outstanding. And I know that Aliyah said herself she didn't really quite know why. It could have been that it sparked something, or that she just the next again day was in a great place, both physically and mentally, with a little bit more fire in her belly. But yeah, 28.8 is really quick, and I think Aliyah would have had to swim almost quick as she'd been through the ISL anyway, to have beaten that. So Yeah, it worked out well in some respect that it could have been the catalyst for the next again day.
Thank you, Stephen. And let's move to the next event, and that's the female 50 backstroke. And straight away, David, Simona Kubova and Natsumi Sakai for you in this event. 26-22 from Simona, great result, kind of expected. But Natsumi Sakai, 26-10, that kind of a little bit came out of nowhere almost, and such an amazing result, especially for a swimmer that, I mean, Natsumi Sakai is incredibly technical, like all the Japanese, but it seems like she is in no rush when she does this 50. Yet 26-1, what a result.
Yeah, like I said, I think the efficiency of our Japanese swimmers overcomes any lack of strength and power that they're so good and so efficient. What was interesting about this race was kind of fun. Is Simona, as she told me after this race, it was her best time ever. It was a national Czech record, and she hadn't bested that time in like 6 years. So it was a point of celebration for us after that first session. Here Simona is late in her career, 26 or 27 years of age, and doing her best time and at the end of the season for her. And sometimes your celebrations are around small little successes. That was one of them. And again, to take second and third against a team that we're trying to stay in close proximity to, London, without getting jackpotted, that was kind of our goal. So we accomplished our goal on a short event, 50 backstroke, with some outstanding performance by Natsumi and Simona.
Just to mention, I mean, London Roar got the world record in this event, but you guys were only 1 point behind in terms of the overall point gain. And kudos to you guys. That was huge. And talking about that world record, Steven, I mean, Maria Kameneva, 26:53, and then Kira Toussaint, 25:60, world record. What went down at the London Roar booth when that happened, and how crazy happy were you guys?
We were really happy. And Kira had been peppering that world record for as far as I can remember anyway, a long time, even before this ISL. But we wanted her to get the world record in the semi-final because we didn't really want her to swim it in the final. We felt that a fresher Kira Toussaint going into the 4x1 medley could get her back down to the 55 low lead-offs that we really needed if we were going to win that event. So, you know, it was still a conversation we had to have with Kira. Was she willing to come out of that event in the final, you know, and really put all her focus into the relay, which she was more than happy to do. So, you know, from a strategic point of view, it was excellent for us that she got the world record then, because what we didn't want to do was her to miss it and then deny her the opportunity to get it next weekend, because we were saying to her, look, you really have to take one for the team here. So it worked out really well, and you know, it's great to see another world record in that environment and at the ISL and for the London guys.
And is there any, and that is a question to all of you guys, is there any special tradition for the coaches that you guys do after a swimmer gets a world record? Something special? No?
Be happy.
Yeah, I
was gonna say, I wish that we had world records frequently enough that we had traditions, but I think it's pretty much anytime you have a world record, it's just, you just do whatever seems appropriate at the moment. I don't know. They haven't quite become easy enough for me yet to have traditions.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I think David has something to say about it.
Yeah, I was going to say that historically what I've done is gone out and bought a new watch. So I stopped doing that after London. Rebecca Sonny won the 200 breaststroke and broke the world record. And I went out and bought a watch at the Omega store in the Village. And after I left that store, I realized I spent $8,000 on a watch, which is way out of my budget, but it was a world record. So that's my tradition, new watches.
So that is an expensive celebration.
Oh yeah, it was.
How many watches do you have?
I think I have 3 now. So
okay.
But then I've got a simple Apple Watch I didn't pay anything for that I wear all the time. So.
It's not the celebration watch.
No.
The celebration watches are only for special occasions. It makes sense.
That's right.
Thank you, David. And with that, let's move to our next event, and it is the male 4x100 medley relay. And Martin, I wanted to talk to you first because your B team consisted of Litchfield to Andrew to Switkowski to Richards, and your A team consisted of Telly D to Koch to Paprava to Wehrli. Now, just looking at these lineups, it seems very tough for you guys to be able to defeat Energy Standard or London, or some miracle needs to happen almost, like they need to be DQ'd or something. But then you also mentioned that you guys wanted to give a break to your stars in order for them to have a chance in winning individual events a little bit. Why race Michael Andrew here then?
It's the last event of day one, right? So there's not a lot of energy to save anymore. So not in this relay. I mean, that would only count if something else would come after. So in this relay, we actually just tried not to get jackpotted, and we succeeded for the first relay, but not for the second one. We did make the right choices when I look at it, actually. All the guys on the first relay were faster than on the second relay. So that was a good choice. And yeah, I think this was it for the 8-man we had. This was what they could bring, and that gave us 4 points. So I think, that was really what we could get out of this relay in this field. I mean, we have had different matches before, obviously, where we made different choices. But in this case, we just, tried to stay out of trouble, basically.
Yeah, fair enough. The only thing I would potentially change about this relay is the third leg of your A relay. Of course, Paprava he did fine, 51.8, but it seems like Michael Andrew or even Litchfield could have done a little bit better in this fly leg. Would you agree? I mean, obviously they were needed for that B relay to potentially not get jackpotted. But if you were just trying to make that A relay a little bit faster, would you put Michael Andrew for the third leg, for the butterfly leg there?
Well, that could have been an option, but I think Michael just came out of 50 breast, and for him those things they do matter. It adds, and Michael Poprava or Mihal had been a 50 point individually, so actually his fly lag in this relay was a little bit disappointing. So I think we made the right choice, but it didn't play out the way it would have been optimal.
Thank you, Martin. Tom, a question to you. Sergei Shevtsov, Andrei Zhilkin, Felipe Lima, Matthew Grievers, your B relay, and Floyd Manadou, Chad Leclerc, Ilya Shimonovich, and Clement Kolesnikov for your A relay. I know that probably everyone in Energy Standard staff, but I know James Gibson for sure, your head coach, treats the medley relays as the most important part of the match. You guys want to win the medley relays. Do you feel like you could have done anything different, tweaked anything for that A relay, or was the pressure from Adam Peaty with his 54 swim just a little bit too hard anyway?
Certainly we wanted to win the relay. I don't know, in terms of personnel, there wasn't really any other options. We went with our fastest relay on our A team there, and the London guys just really stepped up big time. But I think everybody had good splits. Nobody had, I mean, actually Ilya had a really good split. I think Ilya's 55-1. You know, with Adam going 54-8, it's difficult to do too much, but I think Ilya did everything he could. And when the guy's going 54-8, but you're only giving up 0.3, you know, that's pretty good. I think there was a lot of areas where we, you know, like it would have been great if Klim could have gotten us into the lead to start, and I think that might have changed the dynamic on the relay for sure. But you know, 49.6 for him versus 49.4 for Guido was, you know, he was okay, and you know, Chad was 48.9, which was a good split for him, and Flo 45.7. Like, you know, the guys, they did what they could do at that moment. They were all pretty tired, so because remember that we had a series of matches back to back into this. So, and this was I believe it was another morning match, right? So they were all quite fatigued when they got to this point, and they were definitely ready for a bit of a break, a few days off before the final. And I think that started to show here more than anything. And that's another reason why, like you had mentioned before, we did feel a little bit freer and made a few changes going into the second day. Felipe Lima, for instance, in the B. So first off, in the second team, the B team, Matt Grievers, Matt was such a great addition to our team. Obviously, he's a great swimmer. He's been around for forever, but just such a great leader to have on our team. He was fantastic. His personality, his attitude, he was just amazing, and he kind of became a little bit of a staff favorite because he was just so helpful for everything, and everybody wanted to see Matt get under 50 in this 100 backstroke, and it kind of became like a thing that we all just wanted to see him sneak under that 50-second barrier. He's obviously been much faster, but he's
the
not
Olympic
quite at
champion
that
from
point in his career
2012.
anymore. Yeah, I know. And and he was 50.0, and everyone was watching and just, not again. He did get under in the final, so that was really, really great to see. But some of those guys are getting a little tired, and Felipe's 57 split showed us that we did need to make some exceptions and make some changes going into the second day. But yeah, so I think we were just getting a little ragged on the end there, and they did what they could do. And Flo was 45.7, which isn't terrible, and he did outsplit Duncan Scott on the anchor, but he just wasn't able to get his hand on the wall.
That was actually the closest medley relay finish we had all season. It was incredibly close. But Steven, for you guys, I mean, what an incredible relay. You guys, this semifinal was full of amazing performances from London Roar, just like, I don't know, almost heroic performances in my opinion. Because, I mean, your B team did great. Luke Greenback to Kirill Prigada to Mikhail Vikavishev to Nakamura. Guys did amazing, but the A team defeating Energy Standard, getting to pick the skins, the breaststroke for Adam Peaty, that must have been so huge. Guida to Peaty to Kush to Scott. That was a pitch perfect relay for you guys. And 54.8 from Peaty. That is mind boggling. I mean, please talk me through it.
Yeah, I think once we reflected on it, we felt a little bit that we'd maybe poked the bear with regards to Energy Standard. Our first two legs could not have gone any better. 49.4, I think, was a South American record for Guido. 54.8. I mean, we had to check our maths going through the relay to actually check that was correct. And with the other two guys, Marius and Duncan, it was their third swim of the session, and we knew that they're always just hanging on, and it changed their strategy a little bit going into the final. It was a great race. It was incredibly close at the end, and I think Energy Standard might have chose breaststroke anyway, and I think we'd maybe spoke about it beforehand, so we kind of knew that whoever won it was probably going to choose breaststroke skins. We had thought about backstroke, but with Clement and Evgeny and Matt showing that they're just getting better and better, and we felt there might be a swing on that. And the one everybody wanted to see anyway was Ilya versus Adam, and we wanted to see it as well. So give the fans what they want. But yeah, it was great. We did have slight reservations around, okay, how do we replicate that and progress it then going into the final, given we'd pretty much shown almost every card we had at that point. So we fully expected Energy Standard to come back stronger the next again week, but the fact we were able to get our hands on the wall in that one and just win the race was great fun.
Sure. That was tremendous, and seeing you guys react after this relay was also stuff made of pure gold. And Tom, is that so? If you guys were to win this relay, you would have went with breaststroke?
I think we did talk about it in advance, and I think like Steve was saying, like everyone wants to see the big guns go at it and do that matchup in the breaststroke. And given the opportunity, likely we would have chosen that as well. Just, it was good fun, and I think the other thing that I would say about this particular relay is, like you had talked about, it is the most important event in the ISL. To be able to, obviously it's a relay, so it's double points, but then also the ability to choose the skins and potentially impact that final points is even more valuable. But in this particular case, we didn't really feel that it was really going to be a huge make or break scenario, because like we knew that if London did win, they were probably going to choose either backstroke or breaststroke, and like we've said, it didn't really make a huge difference to us. So not that we definitely didn't concede the victory for sure, but we also knew that it wasn't so important as in some of the other situations.
It must be quite frustrating competing against Energy Standard. You guys don't really have a hole, now that I think about it, that others can make use of. Yeah.
We definitely don't like having skins against Caleb Dressel, but
I think no one does, though. It makes total sense. But thank you. And with that, let's move to the next event, and it is the female 100 meters individual medley. And to start things off, Martin, Emily Escobedo and Abby Wood for you in this event. 59.66 from Emily, 58.6 from Abby. These two girls have historically been, throughout the ISL season, very useful for you in the individual medley events, especially Abby Wood. Do you feel like they underperformed a little bit here, or were you happy with the results? But
Well,
also,
yeah, sorry. I think Emily was her best time, and we kind of. Abby was number one pick for us. They were very obvious. She had done a tremendous job in both 100, 200, and 400 IM throughout the whole ISL season and the relay. She was in a good shape, and when I look at that 58.6 for her, she had been a little bit faster with her fastest time of the season. I think it was a 58.13. She would have been second in this match. That would have been nice, obviously. But on the other hand, her 200 and her 400 IM in the same semifinal were best times. So I don't think she was out of shape or anything, but this race didn't click. A turn that wasn't perfect. So little things that made the difference in the end. Yeah, and for Emily, I think Emily has been a very, very, very good value for us in the breaststroke, obviously, but also filling the gap in the IM. And the other breaststroke lady, Molly Renshaw, did it earlier. So, yeah, they have been very, very helpful, very consistent in their performance, and actually getting better every single match. And Emily, again, I think this was the first time ever she did under a minute. So, yeah, I could only be happy for her, basically. Yeah.
when a swimmer hits their PB, you cannot be asking for more.
No, usually not.
Especially with Abby, I feel like Abby's a little bit used to leading the race, and this is where she feels most comfortable at. And with girls like Sarah Sjostrom, Anastasia Shkurdai, Runa Emai, it's hard to lead a race. And do you think she got thrown off a little bit by the fact that she was, outswam in the first 50?
Oh, I honestly can't really answer that question. That's a question she can answer better. I've seen her do both actually, and she has a good front speed in her IM, and that especially shows in the 2 and the 400. I think a little bit less in the 100. But yeah, she also had some strong finishes. So I've seen both sides. So I can't say that if she doesn't lead the race, she never wins it or anything. No, I don't think that's a statistical matchup.
Fair enough. Thank you, Martin. And Tom, for you guys, Anastasia Shkurda and Sarah Sjostrom, 58.73 from Anastasia and 58.26 from Sarah. Tom, no disrespect, but in my imagination before this occurred, I was picturing like a 57 low 100 individual medley from Sarah. Are you happy with that 58.2? And do you think that Sarah swam up to her abilities, or is there another reserve waiting for us?
I would tell you that Sarah wasn't happy with the 58-2. I think, if we cast our minds back to the way that the ISL season unfolded for Sarah, she did the first match, and then we had a big training block, and then she got injured and she missed our second match, and then she came back in, and she'd swum a lot of events in our first match because we were missing Fem from, I think she swam the 200 free, the 100 free, and so we missed a little bit of that interchangeability. And then so she missed a match because of her injury, and then she came back in the next match and was absolutely outstanding. And I think that her expectations were that she was just going to get faster and faster, without thinking about the fact that, well, you're coming in and you haven't swum, you haven't raced, and because she was injured, she wasn't training super duper hard, she wasn't super fatigued either, so she was not necessarily fatigued from training, and not fatigued from racing. So I think that all kind of caught up with her a little bit on this second day, and we see that's what we saw in that result there. And I think that certainly she wasn't happy with it, and obviously we would have preferred for her to get the win, but it is what it is, and that's why we race. So
would you say the breaststroke is kind of her nemesis, or is it the backstroke?
She's definitely not a great breaststroker, but in the 100 IM short course, you can kind of get away with it. I mean, she's a good 100 IMer. She's raced it quite a lot on the World Cups, and she's done it a few times for us this season. So I wouldn't say that it's really a weakness in that event. Obviously, her butterfly and her freestyle are her strengths, as everyone knows that. But she's also she's been under the minute in the 100 back long course. Like, she's not a bad backstroker either. But she doesn't train much on either of those strokes. The only time she does is when she's thinking about 100 IM short course. And I think, she does what she can do, and she usually gets away with it. So.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. And Dave, what a race for you guys. Michal Teramura, 58.74, but Runa Imai, 57.77. Out-touching Sara Sjöström, Anastasia Skurdai, Sydney Pickering, Abby Wood. That must have been huge for the morale of Tokyo Frog Kings. And above this, why don't we see this from Runa Imai earlier? She was always game in the 100 IM, but 57.7?
Yeah, this was a big swim for us. It was early, it was kind of that second day of the matches, and the meet was it was still kind of eking towards London and Energy Standard. We kept falling a little bit behind. We had some wins ahead of this race, but Runa was under 58, the only one to go under 58, 57.7. Outstanding performance by Runa. I think our biggest disappointment was she didn't jackpot anybody. We were a little bit surprised by that. Going up against a field that includes Sarah, and Sydney's such a great IMer as well. I've seen her swim in the States for a number of years, and but it was definitely a turning point for us. It was not an expected win for us. Again, as we map out our strategy, there were expected wins that we called into play. Yui in the 200 IM, or Hagano in the 400 IM, those kinds of things. But this was a big win for us, and it gave us a lot of enthusiasm going to the men's 100 IM, which was next, and we thought we had a good chance of winning that race. We subsequently did not win it. New York Breakers won that one, but it was a good series of races for us at that point in time.
Thank you, David. With that, let's move to the next event, the female 50 butterfly. And since we started talking about New York Breakers winning, Kasia Wasik and Arina Surkova in this event. And 26.02 from Kasia. And honestly, I expected a little more from Kasia, judging her by her 50 freestyle performances. 23.4 is insane. And if you compare it to a 26.02, there's quite a margin. But that casted aside, Arina Surkova, 24.87. And while the result is impressive, don't get me wrong, the names she's beaten, oh my God, Sara Sjöström, Madeline Banich, Marie Wottel, Maria Kameneva. This is huge.
Yeah, no, it was a great swim, a great time for it. It was a national record, big personal best time. So that was great, and winning the race obviously was a great achievement as well. And that definitely brought the momentum we talked about earlier, like trying to maximize those individual potentials. Because I think I haven't looked it up, but I think I left her out of the 100 freestyle individually to save energy for this. Um, so yeah, she definitely took that opportunity, and she was really fired up to swim this race. So then doing it and not only swimming a good time but also winning it, I think that makes the story complete. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and even you switching her out of the 100 freestyle, it seemed like not the worst idea because you had Daria Ostinova swim for you in the 100 freestyle, and she also did great. I mean, she did a result. She swam. Let me check for you, a 52.9, which is not very far from what Arina would swim in general anyway.
No, they were kind of interchangeable, but Ustinova had a 200 freestyle later on, and that was an event we were not very strong at. So if she would be relatively fresh there, we could stay out of trouble most likely. But this time we made a different choice, and I think she did both quite well that day. But yeah, Arena getting that win, that was special, definitely.
And talking about this huge upset, I mean, Tom, 25.04 from Sarah and 24.96 from Madeline. I mean, Madeline was, this is me guessing, but she was probably happy about this performance. First of all, out touching Sarah. Second of all, being sub 25 is an excellent result. But Sarah must have been unhappy about this, wasn't she?
Well, I mean, so Madeline, that was 1/100th faster than she had been in the other match. I think that probably Maddie was more frustrated than anyone because I don't remember what the American record is, but I remember she was either, I don't even know if she was a full 10th off of it. And I think she was 24.9 a few, like 4 or 5 times, and just really was trying to get that breakthrough. And she did get it. And she, in the final, she was 24.80, I believe. So she figured it out. And for her, the frustration wasn't so much the time, but it was about the fact that she kept having this really long, poor finish just because the cycle of her strokes was such that she would come in and she would just have to glide the last half meter or so. And, not that you ever wanted to do that, but when you're missing your national record by such a small margin and that you're making the same mistake every time, I think she was quite frustrated with that. Um, Obviously both the girls would have liked to win when it's that close. You always question whether or not you could have found that little extra. And Sarah, obviously when it comes to the long course 50 butterfly, she's completely on her own in a class by herself. But she's not actually known for the short course swim, and she actually doesn't even have her national record in this event. She's always struggled to put that together, and it was only, I think it was 8/100ths off of her at that moment. It was 8/100ths off of what she had been as her fastest time in the season. So I don't know whether she was too upset with it. She went much better in the final. I think she was 24.7 in the final, so she progressed that nicely. Yeah, I'm not sure how upset she would have been. She doesn't. It's not. I mean, obviously, she's competitive and she wants to win. And like I said before, when it's close, you always question, could I have done something a little bit different? But it's certainly not her pet event in the same way it would be in the long course pool.
Yeah, I still have trouble wrapping my mind around a 24.4 from Sarah in long course.
I think everybody does.
But with that, let's move to our next event, and it is the female 100 meters breaststroke. And this one's a big one because for me, this is the sort of revenge event in a way, right, Steven? Because the one that before had Annie Laser and Aliyah Atkinson perform in this event. 104.39 from Annie, but 102.66 from Aliyah is mind-boggling, isn't it? Especially considering she started off with 104 103, and now we're at 102.66. And especially after the 50, I totally did not expect it. How did this came to life?
It's a great question, and it's actually a race that I didn't see. I was making my way between the box, the swim down pool, so I actually had to do a double take myself on the screen when I saw the time. And when Alia came back round, she was similar. She was like, I don't actually know how I did it. She was managing a groin injury through that phase, and we did have conversations around should she be swimming or should she not? Because the last thing we wanted in this year in particular was for her to end up with an injury and be out completely. So it was really well managed by the physios on the London team and herself, so that they were managing the load in the pool a little bit more. So whether because of that, she does work real hard, and she was following a lot of her programs from back home. Whether the load that was dropped helped her to freshen up a little bit, it could be the case. Certainly the day before, being disappointed, and I think for a lot of them it's more disappointed for they feel that they've let the team down. So there's more in there for them to give something back to their teammates, and I think that helps a lot of them as we go through these, and that's what's really exciting about it. But exceptional swimming, to see a 102.6 at any time is just phenomenal. And what was coming in the next race just made that little cluster of 5 or 6 minutes at the ISL just really, really exciting and pretty special.
Oh, it was magical. I was convinced I was not going to be surprised by anything after this 102.66, but was I wrong? But Tom, Bria Larson and Benedetta Pilata for Energy Standard in this race, same as in the 50 breaststroke. 103.55 from Pilata. Are you happy with this? Was she happy with this? I mean, it was up to her what she was swimming previously, and this is still a great result. But it must be sort of strange for her out touching Alia by 0.5 of the 50 and then losing by a second in the 100.
I don't know whether it was strange. Like we talked about, I think she feels a lot more confident in the 50, and that's her best time in the 100. That was the fastest. That's the fastest she's ever gone. So I think she was quite happy with the 103.5. It was at that time it was the best time, and she actually went slower than that in the final. So I think she was quite pleased. Sometimes it's easy to forget how young she is, and I think for her, she was just happy with the best time. And I think everybody in the building was just shocked, and sounds like Alia was too, about how Alia swam. And it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, you can't, there's no way that Bene was going 102.6 or faster. So I think she was quite happy with it. And for us, it also showed a lot more reliability between her relay splits and the individual on that particular one. I think she probably overall might have been her best competition in this semifinal, where she was managing her efforts and managing herself really well and getting consistent results between the 50, the relay, and the individual event. So I think she was quite happy with how it went.
Thank you, Tom. And I'm remembering the race now. Something that stood out for me in this 100 breaststroke is Alia Atkinson's breakouts. She was gaining almost half body length on Benedetta from each of the pullouts. Steven, can you tell us a little bit about Alia's breakouts and what she maybe does to tune them to where they are? And also, she's such a heavy kicker in my understanding when she does breaststroke. Like, majority of the force she puts, the majority of the velocity that she gains out of her stroke comes from her kick, right?
I'd probably doing a disservice by trying to answer it, but one observation was that Alia is a really good fly swimmer. She's very powerful, and she's a bit 57 on the 100 fly as well. And one thing we've always noticed is a lot of the guys that we have anyway, or see that tend to have the best breaststroke pullouts tend to be the freestylers and fly swimmers. They've got nice long levers, and they're really good at that action of pulling down to the side of the hips. So Alia does have that tool where she is a good fly swimmer. She's obviously got good muscle activation in that plane and that pathway. So I think that's one thing that does help her. And she is just really powerful. She's a great short course specialist. been around for a long time, and obviously coming from the American system as well. You know, the skill element is just really, really high and really valuable in that system, and I think that it's a culmination of a lot of those things. And she's so experienced. I think she's really calm and composed through that phase, where I think a lot of other athletes, when they're under pressure, can really rush it and become inefficient, whereas she just seems to maximize what her strengths are.
Sure, thank you, Steven. And yeah, now that I think about it.
I think, Ivan, one of the things that you touched on there, though, which is unique to the ISL, is you can see the difference in the pullouts because of the camera angle from above. Whereas a lot of the swimming competitions, you know, we get that side shot and we maybe get a cut to the underwater. But I mean, as coaches as well, it's really interesting and unique to see that. Usually it's on the recap or something like that, but you see the athletes, especially in the breaststroke, they come in together on the turn, and you actually see the difference between the underwater phase, and you also see the accelerations and decelerations, which are surprising to see, even as a coach that's been around for a long time. And it's actually really, really fascinating to get that comparison, and makes a big difference for us as coaches, and I'm sure it helps the spectators as well.
Sure. Yeah. I think I also had a bit of an advantageous position. I was kind of overviewing the pool, so I had the chance to see every single breakout play out. Yeah, it definitely stood out for me. And Steven, what you said is definitely true. I mean, have a look at Michael Andrew, Vlad Morozov, Caleb Dressel. All of them are partially freestylers, partially butterflies, and their pullouts are insane. So yeah, now that I think about it, your words hold true, for sure. And before we move to the next event, there's something that is kind of hidden under the carpet here a little bit, but the performance of New York Breakers athletes here, Molly Rancho and Emily Escobedo, although, I mean, obviously when you have someone swimming a 102.66 and 104 isn't that impressive. But for these girls, Martin, these were excellent swims, right?
Both, I think, best times. Yeah, and those girls, like we said earlier, they have been very consistent throughout the whole season, and they have actually been stepping up almost every race they did, and this was no exception to that. So, now very, 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 very valuable, and very, very pleased with their performances throughout the whole season, and definitely also this race. I mean, I think 104.3 for Emily and 104.7 for Molly. Yeah, it was good.
Thank you, Martin. And with that, let's move to our next event. And it is the final event before the skins, the male 100 meters breaststroke. And to start things off, David, Shoma Sato and Yasuhiro Koseki for the Tokyo Frog Kings in this event, and a 56.2 from Koseki. And I know that Koseki has already had experience beating Adam Peaty previously. But were you satisfied with this performance here? And it seemed like kind of here was the time where either Tokyo Frog Kings take that final initiative, or and try to get into the final, or did you kind of feel like at this point the match was over?
Well, by this time we pretty much knew the match was over, but the enthusiasm of the team was all the way through the entire match. Was exceptional. I think that Yasu, in fact, this was one of his best times ever, 56.2, and it kind of points up the difference between the Japanese long course and short course. Shoma is, they think that Shoma might, I haven't looked at the results yet today, but you're expecting Shoma, who went 206 200 long course about 2 weeks ago, might be breaking the world record this weekend in the 200 long course breaststroke. And these guys are just not able to compete against Adam Peaty or Ilya in those underwater pull downs like we've been talking a lot about. So it's one of our weaknesses. But Yasu's 100 breaststroke, it was, 56.2 and behind two of the best in the world at the time is an exceptional performance. And Shoma is a really, really good long course swimmer, and primarily more of a 200 breaststroker. So we were very pleased with this result. We weren't pleased we were not going to get into the finals. London was exceptional throughout this match. Energy Standard, you could tell, was kind of looking towards finals a little bit, maybe more than the semifinals. But we were excited about our performance throughout the series of matches all season long. This was we swam as well as we could through this entire match. And unfortunately, we knew that the skins was not going to be in our advantage. Energy Standard won the 400 medley relay and picked the 50 fly on the men's side. We had a shot, but they didn't win, so they didn't pick 50 fly. So we knew this was our meet, but it was a really exceptional meet for us. Thanks.
Thank you, David. And would you say that, just last question, would you say that the pull down issue comes from the lack of power a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the body dimensions, the athletes that we're talking about. Adam and Ilya are really big athletes. Adam especially. Adam used to be not very good in underwaters. I used to watch him long course. He'd always come up behind everybody, and I know that's been an effort on their part to improve that. And he's gotten exceptionally much better off the blocks and off the walls. But I do think that that's the one thing lacking on with the Japanese athletes is on breaststroke in particular. They're really good on the long axis events, blocks for the first 10, 15 meters. Breaststroke, that underwater pull down is really, really crucial for short course meters.
Thank you, David. Okay, and Tom, Andrei Zhilkin and Ilya Shimonovich here for Energy Standard, 59.41 from Andrei and 55.69 from Ilya. First of all, this 55.69 is also a tremendous result. Even though there was an Adam Peaty who swam 2/10 faster and beat the world record and took the W, 55.69 is still absolutely incredible, and a sign of great things to come for Ilya Shimonovich just in a couple of weeks after Budapest, where he beat that world record, right? But Andrei Zhilkin, 59.4. I know you probably wanted to rest Felipe Lime there, but were you expecting anything faster from Andrei?
We, coming into this, we knew that, like we said, we did take Felipe out of the day. We rested him from the day after his relay split. We found with our athletes, you know, I'm not sure whether we are one of the older teams on average, but I would assume that we were. You know, we've got a few athletes in their 30s on our squad, and we found that they just don't recover as quickly as the younger ones. Felipe being one of our older athletes, and he just needed that extra rest. So we had two choices on our, well, I mean, we had a few choices, but two main choices. And last year in a similar situation, we had gone with Sergei Shevtsov. And
you did do it this season also previously.
Yeah, and we did it this season as well, like I was going to say. And he was good. I think this year he got under a minute, which is did he not? I can't remember.
No, he didn't. 102.
And but so we were looking last year. I remember he was like either right on it or he just got under. But we knew that we needed somebody to do that, and we felt probably Andre had a better shot. But yeah, so yeah, it is what it is. You kind of, you know, in these matches, sometimes you're forced to put people in that maybe it's not their best event. And I think also we had talked a little bit before about how Andre he did do 2 weeks in his room in quarantine, and then he had a return to play protocol that he was following. So he was on zero training for 2 weeks and then very minimal training after that. So he actually swam quite well in the first match back, but I think as he got a little bit farther along, he didn't have as much resiliency to that. You know, he got quite tired and he didn't have the fitness behind him to come back and keep moving forward. So it is what it is. For Ilya, 55.69 was the best time. And one of the most impressive parts about Ilya's performance through the ISL, and as you had mentioned afterwards, is he came into our first match and went 56.1, which was not a best time, but it was within a few tenths. And then he went 55.8, 55.8, 55.8, and then 55.6, and then 55.4, and then into after the ISL 55.3. And just, you know, I think anytime that you're able to, as an athlete, to learn and progress and move yourself forward that frequently and that many times, it's just, I mean, it's exceptional. And he did a great job of, looking back on the videos of each of the swims and finding a little piece to be better at, little areas to try to improve and to try to execute that. So.
Sure. I actually spoke with Fabio Scazzoli recently, and he mentioned that in his understanding, Ilya Shimanovic is the newest innovator in the world of breaststroke in a way, and that his narrow kick is something that everyone's going to be doing shortly. Tom, would you agree? Is this the new breaststroke revolution in a way?
I'm not sure exactly what the new breaststroke revolution is going to be, but I mean, obviously Adam is the guy he's the guy to beat come Tokyo. And I think people forget that Ilya is actually the second fastest all time in the 100 breaststroke long course. So obviously he's doing some things that are working for him, and it just goes to show how good Adam is, where Ilya is over a second. I think he's 1.4 seconds slower in the long course 100, and he's the second fastest guy of all time. Like, that just shows the domination of Adam Peaty. And I think maybe there are some things that we can learn from both those guys, but certainly Adam's the one who is leading the charge in the breaststroke for sure.
Thank you, Tom. And speaking about Adam, Steven, 56.40 from Kirill Krigera and a new world record from Adam Peaty, 55.49. I mean, that was such a huge swim. 20 points go the way of London Roar. You guys are safely in the final after this for sure. What are the emotions that take place in the London Roar booth?
Again, it was off the back of Ali, and I think we were hoping that there was a world record coming from either of the boys that won it. But you know what it's like sometimes when there's a really close race, a bit of tension, and they could have gone the other side of the world record. Adam is who he is, and he's improved his short course game massively. He's not somebody who particularly enjoys swimming short course meters, and Dave was correct in saying that he has improved his underwaters. But again, even compared to Shimanovic and some of these other guys, he still gets left behind. You know that he needs to be going in the wall just a touch before to come out maybe just behind. And if he is just behind, you know that his swimming speed, even with 5 meters to go, is going to take him past. And that's actually what makes it so exciting, short course. Somebody pulls away, then he catches, they pull away, then he catches, they pull away, and then he's level. And if he's level going into the last length, yeah, it's done. It's over. He's going to win it. I think the world record's subsequently been beaten, but that's irrelevant. It was a world record at the time, and it was great to see Kirill down at the 56.4 as well and get the 1.4 and get so many points. I think by that point we knew we were in the final, and because it was fly skins, we felt it was probably a stretch too far to catch energy standard. But again, it was another world record. Great to see in that environment, and just really exciting to see two guys so close, and just the quality of the field. Shoma Sato was 6th in that race, and I think he went 2:06.7 this weekend. So he was just outside, but there's the depth in it is unbelievable. So if you're winning those races, you're going to have to swim fast.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And David, I remember Adam Peaty's first world record long course, and I remember him diving in and being like 3/4 of a body length behind everyone, and then catching up and beating everyone. So I believe you're so right that he improved his underwaters and the start. And talking about this, I'm so excited to see his long course performances now, because they must improve from that also, right? It's logical.
Yep.
Steven, another question to you, similar to what I asked Tom. What do you think is new that Adam brings to the table of breaststroke? What is it that defining feature? Is it the insane strength that Adam Peaty has, the time he puts in strength and conditioning, or is it the tempo he puts in? Tempo was kind of a Vanderberg's invention, though, I would say.
His stroke rate is pretty phenomenal through the course of a 100-meter race. But what's really interesting with Adam is that I think they've done studies, and it wasn't British women, but that he spends the longest amount of time in streamline throughout his stroke cycle, despite the fact he's got such a high rate. So the proportion of it spent in a streamline position is proportionately high compared to how high stroke rate is. He's quite narrow as well. He's got a really narrow kick. and he's also quite narrow and short with the arms, but he's incredibly powerful. And I guess from a British point of view, if you remember back to somebody like Liam Tancock, who 50 backstroke world record holder, he was really strong in the gym, but had a really high turnover. And there are some similarities, but Adam's endurance and speed endurance is just off the scale. You know, if it was a 100-meter long course race, I think he'd be 2-3 seconds ahead of the rest of the world if there were no turns in it. You know, he just doesn't slow down, and to me, he's a bit like a steam train. He just the more cycles he takes, the more momentum he creates, and it just keeps going and going and going. And I think his body mass helps and attributes to his stroke technique, but I think it would be a bit of a risk to try and copy. I think you probably need to maybe look at if anybody's ever going to go quicker, is do you do it a different way, or a unique way? And I think with breaststroke, you see people like Shimanovic and just how tall they are. Is that body shape going to be the one then that goes beyond the levels that we're seeing? I know, is it Reese Whitley in the States? Very, very tall. I just don't know if he's maybe got the twitch that would be required to go that sort of speed. But it's really interesting to think about.
I actually had the opportunity to train with Reese Whitley for a couple of years, and he's definitely he has a very special body, and his work ethic is insane. But he's definitely not a fast twitch guy. Sprinting is not part of his game. He really likes when the event plays out for longer. Even the 100 breaststroke is kind of a little short for him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he's got in the years to come for sure. And with that being said, by the way, there's a pool, a 100-meter pool in Russia that exists. And now I'm so interested to see Adam Peaty do 100 breaststroke of that. But with that being said, let's move to our first skins, and it's the female 50-meter butterfly skins. And straight away, Tom, Madeline Banich and Sarah Sjöström completely sort of sweep all the points here. And I'm not sure if this could have went any other direction, but maybe Marie Wottel could have done something if she made it past that first round. But yeah, that was such an overall strong performance, and especially from Madeline, because in my understanding, what some of these swimmers do, like for example Sarah, she probably wasn't going all out in this first 50, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly the right estimation. I mean, Sarah was 25.27 on the first round and 25.39 on the second round, and then another 25.9 on the third round. So she was obviously, I mean, Sarah's very good at holding her speed over 3 rounds of skins. She did all of the rounds last year, and she did most of the rounds for us this year. So she knows how to do it, and she's, I think that in the skins, you need to be, if you're just the 50 person, I think you'd really struggle. And I think for Maddie, I think she was super excited to have the opportunity to do the skins. I'm not sure how much she was really just trying to get that American record that we already talked about in that first round. But I know that one of the things that we did talk about for her was trying to jackpot some swimmers on the first round, because that's more points, for her and for the team. And I think she did a good job of that. She got one jackpot, I think. And then basically it was like, hold on and make it through the second round. And I think probably that second round was quite a challenge for her, because she was only 2 100ths off her best time on the first round. So to come back 3 minutes later, 2.5 minutes later, and then do it again. And kudos to her, because she did a good job, and she got her hands on the wall for the touch out over Starkova. So
25.6 is another excellent 50. There's nothing to take away from it. But did you share the strategy with Sarah? Did you tell her, all right, Sarah, you can chill out a little bit on the first 50 because Madeline is going to be going for the jackpot? Because if you think about it, remember the race between Emre Sakci and Ilya Shimanovic in the skins, and Ilya just jackpotted a bunch of swimmers in the first round and ended up getting second in the following rounds. And Emre won the second and third round, but Ilya ended up with more points because of that first jackpot.
Yeah, and you know, we had watched and obviously been a part of a lot of those other skins races, and we kind of saw how those things played out. I think that Sarah was certainly the favorite to win the overall points. We knew that she was going to be basically unbeatable on rounds 2 and 3, but like we talked about earlier, she'd only gotten third in the 50. So I think her vulnerability was certainly in that. If there was one, it was certainly in that first round. I think she was pretty confident in handling it just fine, and she knew that Maddie was going to go fast on the first round. She knew that was Maddie's bread and butter to do. That was going to be how she got the best out of herself, and I think Maddie equally knew that Sarah was going to be tough to beat on the second and third rounds. They know each other pretty well by this point in the season. So.
And Martin, for you guys, Kasia Wasik and Arina Surkova, 25.97 from Kasia, failed to make it to the second round, but for Arina, 25.16, gets second in the first round, makes it to the second round, and 25.83 in the second round. Martin, what was your strategy with Arina coming into this race? Did you kind of expect that if she makes it to the second round, it's going to be very tough for her to make it to the third round? Were you kind of banking everything on the jackpot on the first round, or did you try to stretch it out and maybe potentially get Arina in the third round of the skins?
Yeah, I think definitely the last option. I mean, we just discussed her 50 fly and earlier in the session that she won and she put down the national record. So she was full of confidence and very happy. So we knew she had a little bit of margin probably to make the top 4 and go to the second round, but it's a young swimmer, so it's not something to gamble with. So I think she did that nicely, swam a little bit slower than her individual race, but definitely fast enough to make it through. And then in the second round, she had to be full on to make it to the third round. And I think she barely missed it. It was not a lot, right? Like
it wasn't a lot at all. It was a little less than, it was 19 100s.
Exactly. So that was unfortunate because I would have really liked to see her shine in a skins final against Sarah. I mean, like Tom just said, probably for Arena would have been the same feeling. Sarah would have been hard to beat in the third round of the skins, but still to be there to represent New York Breakers, being in the final of the skins, that would have been, I think for us, that would have been like the cherry on the pie. But unfortunately, she just missed that.
Can't be mad. She did absolutely great. Nothing to take away from her.
No.
Thank you, Martin. And with that, let's move to our final event we're going to discuss of semifinal 1, and it is the male 50 breaststroke skins. And to start things off, I have a question to you again, Martin. Marco Koch and Michael Andrew for you in this event. 27.2 from Marco, probably quite far from where you guys wanted him to be, but hey, last event, right? And it's the last event for the New York Breakers and in the season.
Well, yeah, I think 2 things are important here to know. He had been fast. He had been the 26.5 in the season, which was a PB. But I think the higher the speed, the bigger the issue with the groin was. So I think in that first day, that 200, he really put everything together and tried to make it work, and he kind of did a decent job there. But the shorter the race, the more explosive, the more power, and I think that definitely showed. The 100 was his slowest in the whole series, and the 50 as well. So can't blame him. I mean, that issue was definitely playing part. But yeah, we would have liked to see him quite a bit faster, definitely.
26.19 from Michael. Were you guys happy with that, or did you really want him to break that 26-second barrier if that was the goal?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said earlier, and on match day 1 of the semifinals, we kind of saved some energy on him to achieve that goal and to score points, and that was the same here. But in a 50, the little things need to be right, and not everything was right here. So I think it was in the ballpark. He had been 26.1 or 26.0 something. So it was not like he was way off, but it was definitely not the perfect race.
David, for you guys, Vladimir Morozov and Yasuhiro Koseki in this event, two huge names. 26.99 from Vlad, probably quite far from where you wanted him to be, but hey, Vlad raced a lot in this day, and breaststroke wasn't kind of falling in place for Vlad in this ISL season, it seemed like a little bit. But Yasuhiro Koseki, 26.2, that's not very far from the best time of Yasuhiro Koseki as far as I'm concerned. But it seems so close between him making it to that second round and not. It was only 4/100ths of a second. If he was to make it to that second round, you think he had a shot at maybe upsetting Felipe Lima and Kirill Prigoda? Because it seems like 25.89 that Ilya Shimanovic swam is a little bit out of this world.
Yeah, we were Vlad. Unfortunately, he was disappointed with that 100 IM loss to Michael Andrew earlier in the day, and I think you just make a little mistake here and there in the 50 breaststroke or in the skins race at all, and especially in breaststroke, if you come up a little short on an underwater pull down or you come up on a glide into the wall or something. I think that happened to him on both ends of the 50. But Yasu was close to that semifinal round. I think that's what you look forward to in the skins race, is that first heat. Just get in to top four. You got a chance, because you don't know how these kids are going to come off that race and these subsequent 3-minute races. So you can get in the top four. You got a shot of just eking it in. So not quite there, and we just got to recruit some guys that can swim not just the 50s, but can maximize their efforts in those skin races.
Okay, thank you, David. Yeah, for sure. Although you could have made an insanely interesting team of people who only swim the 50. That would have been fun to see. Throw Andrei Govorov in there.
There you go.
Thank you, David. With that being said, Tom, for you guys, Felipe Lima and Ilya Shimanovic. First of all, did Felipe Lima, in your understanding, receive enough rest? Because 26.16 is still a very good result for Felipe. And then 26.65 after this for Felipe is quite a sprinter. I believe he did pretty well in these skins. And of course, Ilya Shimanovic, 25.7, 25.8, 26.5. Was the strategy with Shimanovic to maybe try to get a jackpot in the first round, or was it to drag it on and see what he has in the last round?
No, I think Ilya was just racing at him the whole time. There wasn't really a discussion around maximizing points versus others, or any going easy or going. He was just racing at him, and I think that was the only thing that he was really engaged in. But it also, I think, like we talked about earlier, it shows just how good Adam is, where Adam on the third round was faster than Ilya went on any of the rounds. I think it's quite interesting to see how the dynamics of a 50 in the skins context is so much different than even, these two race really tightly in 100, but when it comes to the third round of a skins, it's not a race at all. Like Adam was just clearly far ahead. So I think that's, as a coach, I think that's quite interesting. And there's the difference between those styles of racing and styles of events. But no, I think he was just racing Adam. Felipe did a great job. Again, we would have liked to give him the entire day off of rest, but that wasn't really an option with with the skins being breaststroke. We didn't have anyone else that could really jump in there and do the job that he did. And sneaking in and getting that fourth place spot by he was 3/100ths ahead of Mike Lander and 4/100ths ahead of Yasuhiro Koseki. I think he did a great job for himself, and I think that was about all he had. So.
Thank you, Tom. Sure. And Steven, for you guys, obviously this was a huge event. Kirill Prigoda, 26.7, 25.88, and then Adam Peaty, 25.48, 25.74, 25.70. You can't ask for more. This was incredible. But I wanted to talk to you about the Peaty's times. I mean, it's interesting that his third 50 was his second fastest. And what's also interesting is that theoretically, and Tom, you might disagree with me upon this, but I think Ilya Shimanovic has a better 200 breaststroke than Adam Peaty does on average. And it seems like Ilya has a little bit more of endurance when it comes to breaststroke. But yet when you have a look at these skins, this is clearly not the case here. Did Adam Peaty sort of save up, especially in this first 50, a little bit?
I think that was a British record. I think it was a PB on that. And the way he was swimming, Adam, he just goes fast and thinks he can win every single one anyway. And he tends to be correct. Our strategy in the first one was for Adam to win and try and jackpot, and for Kirill just to get in the top 4. You know, you look at 7 out of the 8 guys there, and they're really, really good 50 breaststroke or short course. And that's no disrespect to Marco at all, but those other guys are incredible. And thereafter, it was pretty much just Adam really versus himself, and that's the way he sees it a lot of the time. I think the next again week, Ilya was a bit quicker on the last one, and Adam was a bit slower. Adam was quicker on the first one, but then slower on the subsequent 2 the next again week. So it kind of balanced out over the 2, but on this occasion, Adam was just off the back of the world record, and he was just pretty unstoppable. It was great to see. I've seen him do skins long course at a meet in Scotland, and I think they're every 3 minutes, and there's 5 of them. And I think Martin's been to the meet.
Yeah,
and the guy will hold 27s, and this was going back to 2018, 2017.
Yeah.
You know, it's a 50 breaststroke long course every 3 minutes, and there's 5, and he never goes slower than 27 point.
Yeah.
So we knew how good he was.
Insane. Yeah.
Okay, now I have something to watch after this podcast. What is the name of this meet?
It's the Edinburgh International meet, and the results will be there for his skins events. But you know, short course, it's a bit different because of the pullouts that are involved. And when we seen Ilya and Sachi do the skins earlier, we thought, well, maybe Adam can't win the skins. But once he got into his groove, we were like, nah, he can win it.
Yeah, 5 in a row on 3 minutes, 27 long course. What?
Yeah, that's actually a meet where you see people finish the skins puking. I mean, that's, yeah.
Not surprised.
They get £100 though if they win it.
Yeah.
Then it's definitely worth it, yeah. But thank you. And guys, this about concludes our analysis of semifinal 1. Obviously, Energy Standard and London Roar were the 2 teams that made it to the final. The season ended for the Tokyo Falcons and the New York Breakers here. And guys, thank you so much for making it to this podcast. It means a lot to me. And before I let you guys go, any final words to the fans of your teams? Martin, do you want to start?
Well, I would say get ready for season 3. I mean, I think for the New York Breakers, this was all the analysis work that could be done on season 2. That's done for us. And I know you have probably two more of these podcasts in the next couple of days. But that's without New York Breakers. So for the New York Breakers, it's really looking forward to season 3 and getting ready to beat this result and maybe sneak into a final.
Thank you, Martin. And by the way, the New York Breakers aren't off the hook of the podcasts. You guys are still invited, of course. But
okay.
Thank you, Martin. David, any words to the Tokyo Falcons from you? Maybe something in Japanese?
I've coached a lot of international athletes in my career, and so the one thing I learned is how to say fast. That's all I know how to say is how to say fast in each language. But we were very, very encouraged by the whole experience of the ISL. I know we all came away very excited. I've had a lot of conversations with Kosuke and Togo over the last several weeks. Our goal is to challenge anybody up to those top 4 in the finals, and our long-term goal is to try to be the champions of the International Swimming League. So we got our work cut out to bring in some athletes that are going to strengthen us in events that we're a little bit weak at. But we're looking forward to the season 3.
Thank you so much, David. What's fast in Japanese?
Well, I joke, but if you ever go to international meets and you listen to the Japanese cheer, it's this very high pitched yee, and I don't know what they're saying. So I just go, yee, go, yee, yee, yee. I don't know what that means.
It's not bad.
Sounds fast.
That's going on our social media for sure. Thank you, David. And Steven, a couple of words from you for the London Roar fans.
Yeah, we just, really grateful for all the support that we get from those guys, but we're really excited about trying to balance up and merge our old, which was our Australian contingent, with our new, which was some of the recruits that we replaced them with. We done a great job making the final and finishing where we did, and we really believe that we can challenge to win it in season 3, all going well with coronavirus, etc., and getting our strongest team together really, really excites us.
Thank you, Steven. And Tom, any final words for the Energy Standard fans?
Yeah, we really appreciate all of the support that we get from our fans and across the world. And this match that we've gone over was a really strong one for us, and it led us into the final. Coming off this, we had a few days of rest finally after a lot of competitions in a row, and heading into the final. It was great. And I think, as everyone has said, our team is very much looking forward to moving on to season 3, especially within the current context of coronavirus and all this. I think everyone at ISL really appreciated the opportunity to be there and in Budapest for the time that we were there. And I think we all look back right now and on that time with some really fond memories, not just of the competitions, but of Run Club, my 2 run buddies here, and other things like that. And we look forward to getting back and being able to do those things again. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you to all of you. This concludes our semifinal 1 analysis. And to everyone watching, thank you for tuning in. Our next podcast will take place on Tuesday. Then we'll have another athlete podcast on Friday. And we'll be analyzing semifinal 2 this upcoming Sunday. Please tune in. And thank you for being with us. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye.
Take care.